Mr. Ruiz.
It appears that you have been living two lives.
In one life,
You play perfectly tuned guitar with absolutely no issues.
in your other life,
You appear to have a pinging and constantly out of tune G string. Guitars going sharp is a very common tuning issue we run into here at the shop. Many of our customers think that this has to do with the tuners. That is not the case. Generally, whenever a guitar goes sharp while it's being played, it's because the nut slots are cut too tight. When a string's nut slot is cut too tight, it holds the string at the nut. When the string is tuned to pitch and tuned up, this length of the string is tighter than the length of the string on the other side of the nut. What then happens is when the guitar is played, the string vibrates and it moves through the nut and it causes the string to go sharp. There are a few ways that you can remedy this problem. The first and easiest is simply to apply some nut lubricant to the nut slot, and that will help the string glide more freely. If that doesn't work, the next step, and which is pretty easy for the home hobbyist, is to grab a small piece of wet dry sandpaper, 600 grit or finer, come down and just floss the slot out slightly with the wet dry sandpaper, then apply some of the nut lubricant to the slot, and that should clear it up. If the nut lubricant and the sandpaper don't work, the next step is to get the properly sized nut file and cut the slot to the proper size for the string. Generally, whenever you're cutting a nut for a set of strings, you want your nut files to be 2 to 4 thousandths of an inch larger than the string that you're cutting the slot for. So if you're cutting for a 10 thou high E, you might want to use a 12 or 13 thou nut file. If you're cutting for a 48 thou low E string, like a set of 11s, you might want to use a 50 or a 52. Now that allows the string to glide freely through the slot, but does not make the slot so big so the string rattles and is loose in the slot. So for this set of 11s, I have an 18 thou G string, 18 thousandths of an inch thick. So I'm going to use a 20 thousandths of an inch thick nut file. I'll move the string out of the way, and I will gently use the nut file to open up the slot. And then when the string goes back in, there's enough clearance for it to move freely, but there's not so much clearance that there's any buzzing or overtones at the nut. For being such a simple little piece of the guitar, the nut is amazingly important and has a huge effect on the way the instrument feels and how well it stays in tune and plays in tune. If your nut slots are cut too tight, you're going to constantly go sharp. If they're cut too high, you will have intonation issues in the first position, and if they're cut way too big, the strings can move in the slot and buzz and cause weird overtones. So with your nut slots cut to the correct width and depth, your guitar will play in tune and it will stay in tune much better.